Imagine, my friend, that you were born with a talent, an insane flying boy named Set, who dreams of becoming an unparalleled wizard. He is now on his way to meet his friend, Tommy, who is waiting for him in the forest. When Set arrives, Tommy asks, "What took you so long, man?" Set apologizes and says, "Don't worry, I'll make it up to you," and he pulls out some magic books he was carrying. Tommy asks him, "Did you steal the books from Alma's library again?" Set replies, "Dude, it's not stealing as long as no one saw me, and I'll return them before anyone notices." Set opens one of the magic books and tries a spell, but he couldn't use it. He tries a second one, and it's the same situation. Frustrated, he finally uses his own unique magic, gathering immense energy in his fist and shouting, "Rock fist!" He sends a flying rock. Tommy is amazed, exclaiming, "Wow, where did all that power come from, Set?" Just as Set is about to boast, the rock crashes into a nearby farm, and a stampede of goats comes racing towards them. The two flee the area before they are trampled. Family woman boy Alma and the outsiders. Elsewhere, we see Alma, the wizard in charge of Set, buying some things from a shop, but the owner refuses to serve her. Alma gets angry and threatens to blow up his shop, so the man quickly hands over the goods. "Take it easy, man." At that moment, Set is still running from the pursuing herd. He thinks to himself, "If Alma finds out, she'll kill me." Before he can finish the thought, he finds her standing right next to him. The boy is in shock. In seconds, she uses her magic to stop the disaster Set created. She is about to scold him, but the villagers arrive and turn all the blame on her. Set tries to tell them that he was the one responsible and that Alma saved the day, but she stops him and says, "It's no use. Humans will never understand. They will keep hating us for no reason." Alma tells them she will pay for the damages, and she takes Set and they leave the area. Within seconds, we see Set cleaning the walls of their flying castle as punishment for disobeying Alma's orders and causing trouble in town. Set asks Alma, "Why did you let them put all the blame on you today? We are wizards, and they are the ones who need us." Alma tells him, "Set, humans see us the same way they see the nemesis monsters that destroy the peace they live in. In other words, we are monsters." Set yells back, "We are not monsters, Alma. Without us, humans would be dead." Alma continues, saying, "If all the nemesis monsters vanished from the world, maybe then humans would treat us normally." Egg the nemesis egg. The next day, Set goes to meet Tommy in the forest. As usual, he tries to use his magic but fails again. Tommy tells him, "My mom told me yesterday not to hang out with you because you are a wizard." Set is hurt by this. He tells him, "We are the ones who protect this world. The nemesis monsters threaten the whole world, and only we can stand up to them. But one day, I will defeat every nemesis monster in the world." Suddenly, as they talk, Tommy notices something strange falling from the sky. Set is surprised and says, "It's a nemesis egg." Tommy tells him, "We have to tell Alma right away." But Set tells him, "Unfortunately, she's not here. She went to fight nemesis monsters on another distant island." Set gets encouraged and tells Tommy, "Take everyone to a safe place, and I'll handle this. Don't forget, I'm a wizard too." He returns to their home and prepares himself with every weapon and tool available. The bats were supposed to carry him to the village, but Set was too heavy for them, and he falls off. Meanwhile, the egg has landed in the town, and people start gathering around it. Tommy rushes to warn them, but everyone just stands still. The villagers say, "We must call the wizards. Alma is the only one who can handle the situation now." Now, wizards are important. Weren't they the cause of all the corruption and problems? At that moment, something drops from the sky onto the egg, and it's our hero, Set. He tells them, "Don't worry, Everyone. Where is the egg? Tommy says, you are standing on top of it, you idiot. A promising start, my friend. Is this fool really going to save the town? The egg begins to crack, and the nemesis monster emerges. Set is thrown meters away. He uses an explosive bottle on it, but unfortunately, it has no effect. He uses his sword, but that, too, breaks. The monster quickly pins Set against a building, literally shattering it. Tommy rushes to save Set, whose legs are trapped beneath the rubble and he can't move. As soon as the monster sees Tommy, it lunges to attack him, but Set shields him at the last moment. Set tells Tommy to run away quickly, and Set can barely withstand the monster's immense power. It looks like this is Set's end, my friend. Boxing glove, the real power. Suddenly, a magic attack drops from the sky, pushing the monster far away and saving Set from its grasp. Everyone is surprised by the source of the attack. It is the old wizard, Yaga, and his team. Set is standing before them, shocked. This is the first time he has seen other wizards besides Alma. Unfortunately, their attack was not enough to defeat the monster, and it stands up again. Yaga immediately orders 2 members of his team to use their magic to bind the monster in a flash. Set gets excited and tells them, let me fight with you. I did everything I could to be a wizard like you. The old man is impressed by our hero's determination and says, all right, we'll let you fight with us. But the villagers, as usual, crush Set's spirit. They tell the old man, don't trust this kid. He is the source of all the problems. Set is disheartened, but the old man stands up for him and tells them, we are all wizards, and just because he is weak and still starting out, you shouldn't treat him this way. At that moment, the monster seal is about to break. The old man tells the villagers, you must leave this place. They tell him, our families are still in the houses, and we can't leave them. He tells them, all right, we will help you evacuate the rest of the villagers, but we need someone to be the bait and draw the monster's attention. He asks Set if he can do it. Set says, yes. Everyone leaves Set and walks away. The seal is about to break. Set gathers his strength and prepares to strike the monster. The seal breaks, and Set unleashes a powerful blow. But Set is surprised that the monster's body has turned into rubber. The monster lunges at Set and chases him. The boy runs, not knowing what to do. The monster gets closer, so Set jumps up and kicks it, but the result is the same. The monster is unaffected because of its body. It kicks Set, but he evades it and gathers his strength for a second attack, but the monster sends him flying away, sticking him to one of the buildings. Bank, the ultimate betrayal. At that moment, Tommy and the villagers arrive at his father's bank. He tells them what happened and that they need to flee the area. The old wizard and his team arrive and tell them, are you still here? We return to Set, who had a plan to use a chain to bind the monster. He successfully draws its attention, and it chases him. Set takes advantage of this and binds it. But while Set was standing, mocking the monster after binding it, the monster changes its expression and uses magic as well. Set immediately runs away, surprised. The monster's attack was so powerful that it destroyed a large part of the village. At that time, Alma was returning to the village. As soon as she gets close, she senses the monster's presence, so she rushes there quickly. Set survived the attack, but he hears Tommy's screams. We go to Tommy, and the surprise is that he and the rest of the villagers are bound. The ones who did this were the old man and his team. He tells them, it's your fault for not fleeing the area quickly. The old man and his team are stealing all the money in the bank. The traitors. Set arrives at the scene and asks them, what's going on? The old man tells him, you helped us a lot while you were distracting the nemesis monster, so we collected a fortune here. The villagers realize that Set was in cahoots with them from the start. They tell him, You were only friends with Tommy because you knew his father worked at the bank. Set tries to defend himself, but it's useless. The old man throws him a bag of money and says, "Thank you for your help." But Set throws the bag back in his face. He tells him, "You are a disgrace and a shame to all wizards." He charges at the team. He kicks and sends the two flying. He goes to eliminate the last one, but he uses magic to block Set's attack. The old man tells him, "I don't care what you think of us. Humans treat us like monsters, so why should we protect them?" At that moment, the Nemesis monster had broken free from its binds. The magic used by the boy to block Set's attack drew the monster's attention. The old man and his team flee the area before the monster arrives. Indeed, the monster arrives, and our hero is lying on the ground, helpless and unable to stand against it. The monster gathers its strength and prepares to unleash an attack that will end everyone in the place. But Set stands up again and tells his friend, "Tommy, don't worry, I will protect you as long as I breathe. And I want you to know that wizards are not monsters, my friend." Set stands in front of the monster's attack and remembers the old man's words. He says, "I am not like you. No, I will be the strongest wizard ever." In seconds, the monster unleashes its attack, which completely overturns the area. The old man and his team stand watching. They say, "Surely, they all died after that attack." But no. Set is still there, my friend. Set was standing and blocking the attack with his bare hands, even after his magic gloves were destroyed. Our hero truly did the impossible. The villagers, the old man, and his team are terrified by what happened, and they realize that the person in front of them will be a phenomenon in the history of all wizards. Set gathers his magic power and charges at the monster. With a single punch, he pierces its body, and it falls to the ground without any movement. Yes, my friend, this is the boy who will be the strongest wizard ever. He falls to the ground from the excessive use of his power, but that persistent monster stands up again. Set no longer has the energy to stand against it, but suddenly, a powerful attack descends from the sky, splitting the monster in half. Alma has finally arrived at the scene. She rushes to hug Set and tells him, "Rest. You did your part. Rocket a new journey." Later, Set wakes up at home with Alma beside him. He asks her what happened. She tells him that the Nemesis monster was defeated, and the old man and his team were captured and handed over. He tells her, "Good." She tells him, "No. How many times have I told you not to use your power without gloves? If the inspection team gets wind of this, they won't stay silent, and you'll be arrested, you idiot." To them, this is strange, and no ordinary wizard can do it, and they hate anything strange and incomprehensible. She continues, saying, "You've seen this happen more than once, right? Humans and wizards will never understand each other." Set tells her, "Then I will defeat all the Nemesis monsters in the world so that we can live in peace. From today, I only have one goal, to find Radian, the Nemesis stronghold, and destroy everything in it." Alma is surprised and tells him, "Those are just myths and legends, my son. No one knows if that place is real or not." Set tells her, "I don't care. I will keep developing and trying until I find it." Set falls asleep, and Alma goes to sit alone. She remembers the first time she met him. 10 years ago, Set's village was completely destroyed by a Nemesis attack. Alma collapsed, unconscious, from the intensity of the fight. When she opened her eyes in the hospital, she couldn't remember anything about herself. Beside her was the child, Set, the only survivor from the village. This was the incident in which she lost her arm. The doctor told her, "Do you know that you were hugging him amidst the fire, as if you were a mother wanting to protect her child?" Since then, Alma has traveled a long journey, searching for anything that would bring back her memories. All she had left from the past was Set. At first, she didn't treat Set as she does now. Set was just a thread that might lead her to something about herself. One day, Alma left Set alone at home and went out to hunt a nemesis. Human village children gathered around Set and kept hitting him. The boy literally saw every kind of suffering and persecution when he was young. Due to the intense pressure, his power was accidentally activated. When Alma returned, she found the house destroyed and Set missing. This was the first time she felt worried about Set. At that moment, elsewhere in the village, the locals had bound Set and wanted to burn him alive. They told each other, "We must kill him before he touches any of us and gives us the contagion." What cruelty! The humans believed that the wizards were afflicted with a curse from the nemesis. But suddenly, all the torches in their hands went out, and Alma appeared. She put her hand on one of their faces and told him, "This is a small gift from me. You are cursed like us now." The man completely lost his mind, truly believing he was cursed. She told them, "You will be cursed when we touch you. How about I touch you now?" All the villagers immediately fled. She rushes to hug Set out of her concern for him. She finally felt something towards him. Since then, Alma has completely changed. She realized that there are other things to live for besides the past she was searching for. She made her decision, bought the ship they now have, and her sole goal was to find a place that would accept her and Set to live in peace. They kept moving from island to island, my friend, and the treatment they received from humans was the same until today. But Set has decided to change all that. Airplane the inspection team. The next day, Set sneaks out to carry out his plan, but Alma catches him as soon as he leaves. She knew what he was thinking. But the surprise is that she is not planning to stop him this time. She gives him her flying broomstick as a farewell gift, along with a few things he might need, and even returns his gloves after fixing them for him. She tells him, "Go, but I only ask you one thing, don't let power turn you into a monster, Set." Set tells her, "Don't worry, Alma. Your son will be the strongest wizard ever." He leaves her but returns to hug her again, crying for the last time, and thanks her. Then he leaves for real this time. Alma cries too, closing her eyes so as not to overflow, and it rained a farewell, hoping to meet soon. Set, on his way out of the village, sees the villagers who used to hate him looking at him with gratitude. This increases Set's determination to destroy Radian, no matter the cost. Alma contacts the capital, Artemis, to collect the remnants of the nemesis that Set killed, but the person they sent arrives 3 days late. When he arrives, she asks him what delayed him. He tells her, "I sent my aide ahead of me, but apparently, he was destroyed again." At that moment, we see our hero, Set, accidentally crashing into the flying ship, but its soldiers are determined to investigate him. He tries to explain the misunderstanding, but no one listens to him. They surround our hero to arrest him, so he uses his magic. "Hands off, all of you." Their leader then appears, sees the horns on Set's head, and asks him if he is a wizard. Set admits it simply, and they immediately arrest him. We find out that these are the inspectors, and their job is to arrest wizards. Looks like our hero's journey ended before it began, my friend. Set tries to escape from the cage and break it with his magic, but it's no use. The cage is made of black silver and is specially designed to suppress wizards. He asks the inspectors why they arrested him and what they plan to do with him. We learn that they plan to jail him in the capital's dungeon for 10 years. He tells them, "Then I won't be able to reach Radian and achieve my dream." Everyone mocks his words and tells him, "It's a myth, kid." But our hero is determined to reach it and eliminate all the nemesis monsters himself. The leader feels that he is a foolish boy. His soldiers ask him if wizards are really cursed. He tells them, "Of course, and that's why it's our duty to arrest and try to curb them." Anyone who survives physical contact with a nemesis gets a curse on their body that poisons them and makes people hate them. Handshake Artemis, the city of wizards. They lower the cage in which our hero is imprisoned to the city's base. Set then feels regret for not listening to Alma when she advised him to hide his horns. He remembers Alma's words when she told him to go to the city of Artemis and look for someone named Yaga, one of the strongest wizards, who might help Set on his journey. Suddenly, while our hero is pitying himself, he discovers that he is not alone. There is a witch imprisoned next to him in the cage. And she is not just any witch, she is from the village of Artemis and was arrested while collecting the Nemesis remains that were in his village. By the way, the girl's name is Millie, and she had a small pet. Currently, she cannot get out because she is separated from the only person who can prove her identity, who is Duke. As soon as she mentions his name, the ship suddenly shakes, and we discover that they have arrested Duke's ship too. Duke tries to hide his identity and quickly destroy it so they leave him alone, but Millie exposes him in a second and tells everyone that he is her boss. She thought he was coming to rescue her, but in the end, he neither rescues her nor escapes, and he finds himself in the cage next to her. Set learns from him that he was going to collect the Nemesis remains from his village, so he tells him proudly, "Careful, I was the one who eliminated that Nemesis." Duke gets even angrier because the remains were torn to shreds and useless, and thus, even the reward was lost to him, and he got arrested. At that moment, the pet takes advantage of the opportunity and steals the cage keys from the deputy leader while he is distracted, helping them escape. But Set insists on taking his broomstick and things before he leaves. Unfortunately, the leader, Dragul, sees them, and his soldiers immediately arrest them. Set uses his magic to push them away and has Millie and Duke retrieve his things. Millie gets her staff back and starts blocking the soldiers' attacks, but their attacks increase until they break her protective barrier and gather around them again. Millie then transforms into her other personality and starts attacking them furiously. She tries to convince them to peacefully return to the ship, but they refuse, so she attacks them until she sends them flying off the ship. Unfortunately, she doesn't notice the leader, who suddenly arrives and is about to finish her off. Set intervenes bravely at that moment, charging towards them on his broomstick to stop him. He grabs Millie and Duke and quickly takes them to the ship, moving towards Artemis. They quickly escape, leaving Dragul in shock after seeing Set use magic with his bare hands. Memo: the Det and the Cat. A little later, they finally arrive at the gates of the city of Artemis. Set goes to check in. Duke is worried because he will be his guardian as long as he is in the city. But suddenly, Duke has an idea to get rid of him, and he tries to convince him to register his residency in the country so he can meet Yaga. He takes him to catch the registration ceremony immediately, and it is clear that there is a secret to this matter. Set is impressed by the city because it is full of wizards of all kinds, and none of them has to hide their power. He arrives at the ceremony location, and almost all the city's residents are gathered to welcome the new wizards. The founder of the city of Artemis, a cat named Majesty, then arrives. He welcomes the new members and tells them that they will benefit greatly from their stay, and all they have to do is sign the contract. Set hesitates at first, but Majesty keeps pressuring him until he convinces him and the others. As soon as they sign, the real contract opens up, and they discover that they are indebted to the Academy and must work as hunters for them to pay off this debt. Only at this moment do we understand the reason for Duke's excitement to register him. He thought he would get rid of Set this way, but he falls into his own trap and discovers that the Guardian bears the same debt responsibility. Set then remembers that Alma warned him about this, but it's too late, my friend. Why do you only remember after the disaster strikes? Set decides not to listen to Majesty and tells them that he will leave as soon as he finds Yaga. Duke then collapses. Set goes out afterwards to search for Yaga with Millie, and they decide to take a tour of the city. They use everything that costs money, increasing the debt more and more. Not only that, but when they go to the tavern to ask about Yaga, Millie gets angry at one of the people sitting there and completely blows up the tavern. The debt then reaches 12 million, and Set gets the title of King of Debts. He then notices that despite the crazy debts and expenses, the wizards here live happily. As soon as he says this, a strange man appears next to him and tells him, "No kidding, man, you just noticed." He promises to take him to Yaga but first asks him for his opinion on Majesty's Academy. Set tells him that the cat is very suspicious, but at least no one here calls them the infected or treats them differently, and they can use magic without anyone looking at them with suspicious glances. He then asks him, "Do you know why Majesty collects all this money?" Millie then says that they use it for research to break the curses on them, but the man tells him, there is another reason. And suddenly, the city's alarms go off at the same moment, and they discover that an attack is coming towards them. The inspection unit followed our hero to arrest him, Duke, and Millie, but then the power of the city of Artemis is displayed as the wizards repel them, and orders are given to them to retreat immediately. We discover then that Majesty uses the money to increase Artemis's influence and protect its residents. Moreover, there are 13 grand wizards there, and each one of them is capable of defeating thousands of soldiers. That is, they have political and military power, and fighting them is tantamount to entering into a war with the nation itself. That is why Dragul is forced to retreat to the main headquarters, but he decides to immediately inform General Turok of Set's power. Crystal Ball the apprentice. As soon as they retreat, the old man tells Set, this is the power of the Artemis Academy, and that's why it is considered the only haven for persecuted wizards. Majesty uses every means to protect them. He then asks him what he will do when he meets Yaga. Set says, I'll ask him about Radian and go destroy it, of course. But the man tells him, no one knows if Radian is real or not. It's logical for you to stay in this place and protect it. Set sticks to his decision, saying, even if this place is safe, the people outside face the danger of the Nemesis alone. To help them, we must change the world itself. As soon as the man sees the determination in our hero, he decides to help him and tells him that he is the Yaga he is looking for. Well, that's a big catch. At that time, Dragul goes to General Turok and informs him that he met a wizard with horns who uses magic with his bare hands without gloves. The general then orders him to monitor Set but keep the matter secret. Set then introduces himself to Yaga and pulls out the letter that Alma sent with him. He then asks him about the location of Radian. But Yaga burns Alma's letter and tells him, whether you are Alma's student or not, I cannot give my power to anyone without power. If you want me to teach you, my son, show me your strength and prove that you deserve it. Set says, just like that. Easy. He gathers his strength as usual and punches the tree with full confidence, certain of his success. But Yaga punches him back and says, are you stupid, kid? You gathered fantasy in your hand and hid it, and you call that magic. He tells him, I will not tell you anything about Radian until you master the basics of offensive magic. Books the training begins. The next day, Set goes to Millie's house and asks her to teach him offensive magic, but Millie apologizes, saying that she can only use offensive magic when she gets angry and her other personality appears. He asks her to teach him how to at least gather fantasy, but it's still useless. She feels sorry for him and says, I have someone who can help you. She then takes him to Duke, who was preparing to meet the love of his life, Ms. Mila, the owner of the Fate Cafe. As soon as they arrive, Mila comes out to welcome them and gets to know Set. Duke gets lost in her beauty, as usual. Her father then hits him and fights with him. Mila decides to invite him to eat and talks with them a little. As soon as she learns that Set is looking for Radian, she admires his courage. But he tells her that he needs to learn offensive magic first, and that's why he wants Duke to help him, since he's a researcher. But Duke tells him, do you think I will agree after everything you've done to me? Isn't the debt you burdened me with enough? I can't even sleep after seeing you, man. But with just one word from Mila, he forgets all of that and decides to play the gentleman and help him. But he regrets it moments later and discovers that he has trapped himself. He tells Set, "I will only read the spell books to you." He begins with the meteor shower spell. Set tries to follow all his instructions, but unfortunately, it's useless. But he doesn't give up and tries again. He finally succeeds in gathering the fantasy, but he fails to control it and accidentally hits Duke, sending him flying. He tries to apologize to him afterwards, but Duke gives up on him. Millie feels guilty then and transforms into her crazy personality to help him. She decides to teach him, but the hard way, and starts attacking him so he can block her attack, but it's useless. Suddenly, an attack shoots out of her by mistake towards Mila, and Duke tries to save her, but he gets injured instead. Set feels that there is no solution but to run away from her, but she chases him. She continues to attack him, destroying the city. Set is exhausted after being injured by her attack, and his gloves are torn. He then crashes into one of the buildings. But suddenly, he discovers that the bridge above Millie is about to collapse, so he uses meteor shower to save her. Fortunately, he succeeds, and as soon as this happens, Millie returns to her normal self and realizes what she has done. Octopus the Kraken menace. Set profusely apologizes to her and thanks her for actually helping him. He goes to Yaga to show him his skills, and Yaga admits his power, but he tells him that Radian is a forbidden zone, and the strongest wizards throughout history have tried to reach it but failed. Naturally, a foolish boy like him will not be able to take a single step inside. That's why he must train until he becomes one of the wizard elite. He agrees to keep him as an apprentice, but he attacks him first to test him and discovers that he must first learn to control his power. Since Set doesn't have a house, he was sleeping in the garden. But even sleeping there wasn't free, so Duke ordered him to find a place to stay. He decides to ask Millie to lend him her house. Fortunately, she had an extra room, so she agrees, and they stay there. Set starts training day after day. Then he goes out with Millie and Duke for breakfast at Mila's cafe. As usual, Duke's mood is ruined because of them. Mila offers him to try her new blend. Although all her blends are undrinkable, he can't refuse her request. Surprisingly, Duke is shocked by the taste, to the point where he tells her that it's the best coffee he has ever tasted in his life. But he doesn't get to enjoy it for long. Suddenly, an octopus hand comes out of the drain below and pulls him underground. Set is shocked and thinks it's a nemesis monster, but Yaga tells him that it's an almost extinct octopus-like creature called the demonic kraken fish, and it lives in the sewers because that's where wizards dump all their experimental animals. Fortunately, it doesn't eat humans, but it loves coffee. That's why it appeared then. But the problem is that Duke always drinks coffee, and that made Duke smell like coffee, and the monster might eat him even though he is human. We go to Duke at that time, who is shocked when he sees the monster that kidnapped him. It was drinking his coffee. He tries to escape while it's busy, but the monster grabs him by the leg and starts sniffing him to eat him. But suddenly, it smells a very strong coffee scent from afar. It quickly moves towards it, holding Duke. We discover that Set and Millie went down with a large bucket of coffee to lure it out and save Duke. But Yaga refused to go with them and left them to deal with it alone, because if they couldn't get rid of it, they wouldn't be able to deal with nemesis monsters. The monster suddenly comes out to them from under the water. They are then reassured, as they discover that Duke is at least alive. Set charges at the monster to save him, but his blow was so weak that the monster didn't even feel it. Suddenly, it steals the coffee from them and quickly runs away. They try to stop it, but it hits them with its ink until they pass out. At that time, Dragul and his men were still monitoring Set. Dragul feels that he is just an ordinary boy and not as dangerous as the general thinks. It's not possible that a boy like this has the power the general told him about. Set and Millie return to the cafe afterwards and decide to try a new plan. They use the traps Millie uses to catch Nemesis, but it is Duke who falls into them, and the monster escapes with the coffee again. They try to catch it with a fishing net afterwards, but for the second time, Duke falls into the trap instead of the monster. They decide to tranquilize it, but I think we know what will happen. Millie then loses her temper, and her personality transforms, and she attacks it, but it's useless. She returns to the cafe with Set, exhausted. Yaga asks them if they want to surrender, trying to discourage them and scare them from the dangers, but Set refuses to give up on Duke no matter what happens. Mila tries to calm them down and brings them one of her inventions, as usual. A different idea then comes to Set's mind. He takes the bucket of coffee and they go down to lure the monster, but this time, he carries Duke himself. Duke feels despair and orders them to leave him alone. He decides to live in this place now, because his life is full of disasters, and there is no difference if he lives here or there with this creature. Finally, I saw someone despairing like you, my friend. But Set decides to save him against his will and throws the bucket of coffee on the monster to execute his plan. Duke is shocked because the monster will eat him this way, but he discovers that this is actually the plan. As soon as the monster eats him, he quickly throws up everything in his stomach, and Duke discovers that they poured coffee with Mila's strange blend on Set. When Set emerges then, he takes advantage of the monster's weakness and attacks it with Millie's help. His first attack doesn't succeed, so he gathers greater power, and this time, he is about to eliminate it. But Duke quickly stops him because he now truly considers him his friend and cannot give up on him. Flexed biceps the test. Days pass, and Set continues his training with Yaga. But suddenly, his gloves get torn during training. Yaga takes them from him and gives him gloves made of black silver to prevent him from using magic. When Set uses his brain and tries to take them off, he gets shocked and discovers that Yaga is punishing him because he uses fantasy randomly and ends up harming himself. Set disagreed with him, thinking that gathering a large amount of fantasy indicates the owner's strength. Yaga then asks him, "What is your goal in gathering all this power?" He tells him, "Because the stronger I am, the better it is, and I will be able to eliminate the nemesis quickly." Yaga then tells him, "You are so focused on your pursuit of power that you forgot the most important thing." He decides not to take the gloves off him until he knows what that thing is, and he threatens to expel him if he takes them off himself. Set gets angry because he doesn't understand his words at all, but Mila's father tells him that Yaga doesn't say meaningless words. Duke then arrives at the scene and tells them that Majesty asked to meet them. They go to meet him, and he tells them that he summoned them because their debt has increased so much that it has become the highest debt in the academy. Set and Millie are happy because they set a new record, but Duke collapses next to them and says, "What are you laughing at? This debt is on my neck too." Majesty continues and tells them that they must pay off this debt, and he then burdens them with a few missions. Set and Millie's mission was to clean the academy's rooftop. Shield Set's resolve. Suddenly, while cleaning, Set and Millie notice a strange broomstick heading towards the service gate. When they go to take a look at it, Set discovers that they are the four-person team who stole his village before. It is clear that they escaped from Alma and were planning to steal the hidden treasure in the academy. Millie quickly attacks them, and we discover that she had been practicing offensive magic, but unfortunately, they block her attack and attack her. Millie blocks the attack and then discovers that they are using their attacks to generate magic instead of magic gloves. They continue to attack them, and Millie blocks all their attacks and then attacks them, but it's useless, unfortunately. The leader discovers that Set is unable to use magic because of his gloves, so he offers to help him get rid of them in exchange for covering up what they did. He admits to him that he admires him and his power, saying, "Power is everything in the world, and if you possess it, you can make everything go your way." Set then gets angry and tells him, "Don't talk to me as if I am like you. Of course, I want to be stronger, but I will never use power in the same pathetic way you use it. I can defeat you without magic. The leader tells him, in your dreams, and attacks him with his team. At that moment, Millie transforms and blocks their attack, and then attacks them with all her might, but she discovers that she needs to find a solution to the shield they are using. An idea then comes to Set, and he asks Millie to attack again. He uses the explosive attack to fly until he passes their shield, and boom! He attacks the leader at the same time. Millie gets rid of the last boy on the team and then returns to her normal self. But the leader suddenly stands up and grabs her, threatening Set with her. Her flying pet hits him until it moves him away from her, but the leader suddenly falls from the rooftop. Set immediately follows him with his broomstick and takes off his gloves to use magic. Fortunately, he saves him at the last moment. Set is upset and goes to apologize to Yaga afterwards because he couldn't keep his promise. Millie tries to defend him, but Set was remorseful and decides to look for another way if he gets expelled. Yaga sighs and tells him, "Who told you I was going to expel you in the first place? Although you broke my orders, I will consider you successful in the exam this time. It is clear that you know the answer." He decides to return the gloves to him after fixing them, but he makes them without fingers. He tells him that he wasn't able to gather fantasy all the time because of them, and he was just gathering them with his arms towards the glove, nothing more. Alma made the gloves this way to protect him. Although he uses magic without gloves, most wizards can't do that. But by using the new gloves, he will be able to benefit from the abilities he was born with. Set is indeed impressed by the huge difference in power, and Yaga orders him to prepare for the second level of training. Shield Dragol's compassion. After training, he goes to eat and sees news from the inspectors of Ramble City. Set tells him that they are bad people because they consider them their enemies. But Yaga tells him that they are humans too. There are definitely differences between them, and you must understand this before fighting them, otherwise, you will force them into wrongdoing. At that time, Dragol was flying on his ship as usual, wasting his time preparing dinner for his team. But it is clear that one of the new soldiers felt disappointed. This is not the leader everyone talks about and his strength. And since when does the leader prepare dinner for his men himself? Aren't they supposed to be fighting wizards to maintain the world order? Dragol notices his disappointment and tries to convince him that he is not a superhuman like the rumors, but he is focused on success. But suddenly, a storm occurs and destroys the ship. The soldiers have to spend the night repairing it, and Dragol is forced to help them too. A message arrives from another squad in a nearby area whose ship was destroyed, and they immediately request assistance. Not as you expected, my friend. The damage was not caused by the storm. It was caused by a nemesis monster. Set was surprised by Yaga's words and tells him in astonishment, "So, there are good people in the inspection unit." Yaga confirms his words, telling him, "This applies to everyone, my son, whether they are wizards or even ordinary people. Everyone expresses themselves, and if they generalize the talk to everyone and punish a good person for the guilt of the group, then they will be like the humans who hate all wizards. Crossed swords the real enemy." We return to Dragol, who goes to help the destroyed ship belonging to Commander Diamond. He asks him what happened to the nemesis after it attacked them, but Diamond was not interested in him at all. He was relieved to get rid of it and wanted to reach the spoils he had with him at the main headquarters. When Dragol asks him about the spoils, he shows him the group of humans he arrested. The situation was not comfortable for Dragol, and he begins to suspect him. He asks him, "Why did you hit our aide?" Diamond tells him, "To help me fix the ship, of course." His men are indeed forced to help them until they fix it. But suddenly, the nemesis that attacked them appears again. Diamond thinks that it is chasing them, but Dragol notices that it is not interested in them at all, and it is clear that the target of this nemesis is the nearby town. Diamond doesn't care about the city as long as they will be safe. The new soldier then objects and tells him, the city will be destroyed this way. But this Diamond was only interested in eliminating wizards. Dragul then intervenes and tells him that they kill wizards because they sometimes threaten the lives of vulnerable humans. In this case, the nemesis is considered similar to wizards. Diamond gets nervous and tells him, but our weapons are not enhanced with fantasy, unlike wizards. We won't be able to eliminate them. But Dragul tells him, even if we can't, we have our own ways of fighting. He gathers all his soldiers afterwards and tells them, rest assured, we will finally return to our real job. Although the nemesis is their enemy, and he is afraid, and even he doesn't want to kill it. That's why I can't order you to sacrifice your lives. The soldiers get excited and tell him, we are with you, boss. They then rush to eliminate that damned nemesis. Diamond stays on the ship, wishing Dragul would fail because he embarrassed him, but his wish does not come true. Dragul returns after moving the nemesis away from the city without any losses. Although he didn't eliminate it, he prevented it from flying and dropped it into the sea to keep it away from the city. After he returns, he also arrests Diamond because he imprisoned ordinary humans and claimed they were wizards to get promoted, as he always does. He tells him, you are a disgrace to the inspectors, and you are like the wizards who threaten the lives of vulnerable humans. He decides to try him in front of General Turok personally. He returns to his ship with his soldiers afterwards and cooks dinner for them, as usual. But this time, the new soldiers' look at him was completely different. Although Dragul got rid of the nemesis danger, he was worried because he was already seriously wounded before they even attacked, as if someone had hit him with a huge sword. Trophy: the broomstick race. Time passes, and a festival suddenly occurs in Artemis. Set is surprised when he discovers that Majesty holds a festival whenever he likes, and he thinks he is finally doing something good. But Duke tells him that he holds these festivals for financial gain and tries to collect foreign currency. Moreover, he builds relationships with countries, thus ensuring that the inspection unit won't cause trouble for them easily. He advises him to take advantage of the opportunity and participate in the broomstick races. Maybe he can win the cash prize and pay off part of his debt. Set and Millie indeed decide to participate, my friend, and they discover that the prize is 10 million, but they need to pay the participation fee first. Since they don't have money, naturally, they won't be able to participate. A strange boy then appears and tells them, get out of here, you two. This is no place for the poor. Set discovers that this is the previous broomstick race champion, named Nicky, and he was famous for using his money and influence to get what he wants. The boy starts provoking Set when he talks about Alma and her refusal to join Artemis and tells him that she must be running away all the time because she is weak. Set then gets angry and tells him, don't you dare speak ill of Alma. You don't even know her. But Nicky provokes him more and challenges him to beat him in the race, since he is her student, and then he might believe his words. Set agrees to the challenge without any hesitation. Millie notices that he trusts Alma a lot, so he tells her about her and how she helped him until the last moment, even giving up her broomstick and giving it to him. That's why he must win for her too. Set participates in the race, happy with his broomstick, but he is then surprised by the advanced broomsticks he sees with the rest of the contestants, especially Nicky's broomstick, which was the latest model. But he is determined to beat him no matter what happens. Millie also participates to help him. And of course, Duke is stuck with the participation fees, and that's why he wants them to win at all costs. And it looks like Set is really going to do it, my friend. At the start of the race, he begins to overtake the rest of the participants despite his old broomstick, until he reaches Nicky and his team, who are leading the race. But suddenly, Majesty appears with his giant broomstick and starts attacking the participants to get rid of them and win the money for himself. Plus, the loser's debts will increase, meaning he profits from every angle. However, Millie blocks his attack, and Set rushes to attack him to get rid of him. Majesty fires a cannonball at him, and everyone thinks he lost, but no. Set blocks his attack thanks to Yaga's training and launches an offensive against him, forcing Majesty to flee, and he explodes his ship. Millie loses her balance and falls due to the explosion, but Set quickly saves her and rushes at full speed to continue the race. He passes the finish line, and only moments are left to win, but unfortunately, our hero pulls back when he sees his friends fall, and he goes to rescue them. Despite his noble gesture, Nikki wins the prize because he crossed the finish line before our hero, Set. Duke is heartbroken then because their debts have increased again, but Set laughs simply and says, "What's the problem, man, if they increase a little? Increased debt is a good sign." As a result of the increased debt, Duke feels that Millie will reject him if he confesses his feelings to her, so he decides to pay off the debt as soon as possible. He collects the job requests that they initially received and starts looking for a suitable mission, but all the missions were worse than the last one. Until he suddenly finds a request on the back of a paper for a mission to hunt an unknown nemesis. He feels stressed because this is the last mission he might deal with and decides to pretend he didn't see it. But Set and Millie arrive then, see the request, and discover that a person from Ramble City is asking for their help to capture the nemesis there because the inspection unit doesn't believe it exists, despite the continuous disappearances. Set gets excited and decides to go with Millie to capture it. They ask Duke to go with them, so he tries to politely evade them at first, but when they insist, he tells them, "Go without me." They try to convince him to go with them because he's a researcher and can help them with his information, but he gets angry and tells them, "I've decided not to participate in anything dangerous." But suddenly, his resolve is cancelled when Millie imagines he is going and starts talking about his courage and strength, and how he is willing to risk his life for the people. After all that talk, he agrees without thinking, and as usual, he regrets it seconds later, but there is no escape, my friend. They board the ship to move, and Yaga goes to bid them farewell. As soon as they move, Dragul notices them heading to Ramble. Set and his friends approach the city and try to hide their horns so they don't run into trouble, but the surprise is that there is no checkpoint, and they enter the city easily. The sound of the factory was very loud, to the point of madness, and the strange thing is that despite it being one of the most populated cities, they didn't meet a single person since they arrived. They ignore all of that and continue their way to the address, but Duke gets tired halfway and they decide to rest a little. Then, Millie discovers that her pet is lost, so they leave Duke to rest alone and go quickly to look for it. Fortunately, they manage to find it easily, but suddenly, a nemesis runs past them as if it was chasing something. They go after it to catch it, but in seconds, it appears in front of them even though it was a great distance away. They discover then that there are two identical nemesis monsters, but this doesn't affect their plan, and they decide to execute the plan on them. Set rushes at full power towards the first one, gathering an immense amount of fantasy as Yaga advised him, and then hits it while imagining the strongest person he knows, Alma. He successfully gets rid of the first nemesis and goes to capture it, but its brother suddenly protects it. They both suddenly run away as if someone is summoning them, so Set and Millie run after them to catch them quickly, but the surprise is that they find a whole army of nemesis monsters appearing and running with them as if they are hypnotized. In seconds, a strange person appears in front of Set while he is flying and quickly pulls him into the building, breaking his broomstick. A strange person whose body is wrapped in bandages appears, and Set asks him angrily, "Who are you?" He tells him he is Grim. Set asks him the reason for his interest in the nemesis, so he tells him that he is hunting them just like him, and they might be the key to finding the person he has been chasing for many years. But Set gets angry and tells him, "But these nemesis are ours." Grim then discovers that he is working with a team and asks him about the location of the others. Set, of course, refuses to answer him, so Grim takes out a giant sword and tells him, "I won't repeat myself again, and please remember your answers well." He asks him again what he plans to do with the nemesis, but Set doesn't answer him and starts gathering fantasy, rushing to attack him. Grim kicks him as soon as he approaches him and discovers that he must paralyze his movement to get answers from him, and he also rushes to attack him. But Set blocks his attack and attacks him again to distract him, then jumps and tries to kick him off guard, but Grim explodes a massive amount of fantasy as soon as he gets close to him, hitting the wall behind him. He tries to convince him to surrender afterward, but it is clear that this word is not in our hero's dictionary, and that's why Set gets up despite his injuries and attacks him again. Grim blocks his attack only and approaches him, but Millie intervenes then and quickly saves him. At this moment, Grim decides to escape but says that he will see them again as long as they are chasing the nemesis. After he leaves, the inspection unit suddenly arrives, forcing Set and Millie to quickly escape. But as soon as the commander knows about their presence, he decides to chase them. Duke sees all this and gets stressed about everything he has done, but Set says, the problem happened as soon as Grim appeared, and about 15 nemesis appeared with him. Duke is surprised and starts building his dreams because if they capture them, he will pay off his debts and become rich, and then he can propose to Ms. Mila without hesitation. But before they start capturing them, they decide to look for the customer who sent them the message and find out the details from him. Then, Conrad loses his temper because his soldiers cannot capture them, so he decides to go down and deal with them himself. But suddenly, Dragul visits him and starts provoking him with words. Conrad gets angry and says, "You are no longer my commander. You must treat me with respect, for I am a commander just like you." Dragul tries to play along, but Conrad feels that he is ordering him and stubbornly opposes him in everything to prove that he is a commander and has authority. When he learns that Dragul came to arrest Set and his friends, he says that he will take this opportunity to arrest all the filthy infected as well. But Dragul tells him to forget about it because those are General Turok's orders. But Conrad gets angry and says that he will never stay silent while there are wizards in his city. Set, Duke, and Millie then go to look for the customer who sent them the message and arrive at his house, but he slams the door in their face. Millie gets angry, and her personality changes, and she threatens him, forcing him to let them into the house. They meet the family and ask them if their son really met a nemesis as they wrote in the message. They tell him that he even touched it. They thought he was dead, but the boy appears then, and by the way, the boy's name is Tag. He is wearing a strange mask and tells them that he didn't meet anyone, but suddenly, he sneezes, and a strange purple substance comes out of him, and they discover that he is cursed. He and his father try to deny it, but there is no escaping what they see. They tell them that they informed the inspection unit more than once about the nemesis's presence, but no one believed them every time. So, Duke tells them that they will need the inspection unit's permission this way because they won't be able to stay on the island or use magic. But the father says, "What are you saying? These people won't help immigrants like us, and we learn that Ramble City has large factories, which is why people always immigrated to work there, but most of the original residents don't like their presence and don't think well of them. So, they apologize to them and ask them to leave the island without any problems." But Set, of course, decides to deal with the nemesis and capture them alive. Tag decides to show them their location, and then he learns that he met only one giant nemesis. Millie then understands that this is probably the original nemesis that leaves everyone cursed, and the rest of the nemesis they saw before were separated from it. They are smaller in size, weaker, and do not leave anyone cursed. A little later, they arrive at the building where Tag met the nemesis and start sneaking in to enter the place without anyone noticing them. As soon as they enter, they find a reishi tree there, and this tree is found where the nemesis is located, and they also use it to make magic tools. But suddenly, the island begins to shake terribly as if it is about to collapse. The inspection unit begins evacuating people to shelters, and Duke decides to go with them so he doesn't die, but Set refuses because the nemesis appear when people disappear, and that's why they ride the broomstick and monitor them from above until they actually appear. Set attacks them and traps them inside the building. Suddenly, a strange flower comes out of their body and attacks them with a magic attack, and Set tries to block its attack, but he can't. Millie quickly comes down to help him and tells him to bind them until she makes a magic circle to prevent them from moving. In this way, they capture 3 living nemesis. Everyone starts dreaming of the wealth they will earn, and at the moment Millie was about to seal them in a scroll to prevent them from escaping, suddenly 4 extra nemesis come down. This way, they won't just pay off their debts, they will be millionaires. Grimm arrives at them and kills all the nemesis, thus destroying their dreams at the same moment, and escapes afterward. But Millie, the cunning girl, puts a tracking mark on him at the last moment, so they won't be surprised again. Because of his strange actions, they suspect that he is the reason behind the disappearances that Tag's family mentioned in the message. Duke decides to return to Artemis and not complete the mission because he is tired, and when he insists on his opinion, Set asks him about the strange marks that appeared on the Nemesis's body while he was fighting them. He says that he has been studying them for years, but he hasn't figured out their purpose, and the only thing he discovered is that they glow when a wizard controls the Nemesis, and these controlling wizards are called tamers. At this time, we see a strange girl playing the flute, and all the Nemesis gather around her, and she apologizes to the original Nemesis for the death of the rest of the Nemesis. She tells him that she has finally reached the final stage after 15 years. The next day, Dragul takes a tour of the city, and suddenly, he sees one of Conrad's followers gathering people and convincing them that the immigrants are the reason for the incident that happened yesterday. He tells them that they are cooperating with the wizards and the infected to bring down the city, and it is clear that a terrorist attack will happen like the one that happened 15 years ago, and this tragedy cannot be repeated. The people are indeed affected by his words, and Conrad feels satisfied because his plan is going successfully. Dragul goes to confront him with his plan, and he tries to deny it at first, but then he confesses that he wants to get rid of all the filthy immigrants who polluted the country. Dragul then argues a little and then tells him, "Don't you see that you are busy with the immigrants to the extent that you let the Nemesis take their comfort in the city?" But Conrad denies it and asks him if he has proof. Dragul feels that there is no hope, and then he tells him that General Turok and the Miracle Makers will come tomorrow to arrest the wizards in Ramble, and of course, the general will reward him for his effort if he was doing his job. Conrad feels tense because his plan will be exposed this way, and he decides to use the hidden wizards to start a spark and complete the rest of his plan. Meanwhile, Duke was preparing to return to Artemis, and despite Set's attempts to convince him to stay with them, he was sure that the situation was not normal. The inspection unit completely ignores the Nemesis problems, and there is no guarantee that they will get a reward if they capture them anyway. But Set decides to stay to help the people who might be attacked, and Millie stays with him, and they go to Tag's house to have lunch with them, but the surprise is that they find the house destroyed. They discover that the inspection unit attacked them and started gathering all the infected, wizards, and immigrants on the charge of planning a terrorist attack. Conrad then gathers all the employees and tells them the same talk about the terrorist attack and informs them that if they don't act this time, the tragedy will be repeated. But he reassures them that he won't let them reach that stage, of course, because he needs their help to eliminate the filthy insects that inhabit the country and pollute everything, even the air they breathe. He succeeds in turning public opinion as planned and asks them to hunt down all the insects that are polluting them to restore balance in their country. The residents indeed gather any weapon or sharp object they have and start looking for wizards and immigrants everywhere. Of course, Duke was still in the city then, so he hides and tries to escape quickly, but suddenly, he reaches an abandoned house where all the Nemesis are gathered, and he doesn't understand why they left them and no one is acting on it. He decides to inform Set first and then return to Artemis quickly, but suddenly, one of the inspectors arrives and arrests him. At that time, the residents had captured Tag and tied him to a pole and decided to get rid of him under the pretext of executing Conrad's orders, but Set arrives at the last moment and touches one of them and tells them, "Take the wizard's blessing." The man thinks he is cursed and quickly runs away with the rest, and Set escapes with Millie and Tag on the broomstick afterward, but Conrad's men see them and order them to prepare the cannons and aim at them. They tell him, "We need to evacuate the residents first," but he replies that they don't have time to waste on trivial matters like this to protect their dear country. To win the war, we must make sacrifices. What an infected person, indeed. Set then discovers that the inspection unit arrested Tag's family because they were hiding him, so he decides to take revenge on Conrad because he is behind everything that is happening, but suddenly, the city residents arrive to capture them. Set then decides to escape quickly, but Millie transforms and wants to get rid of them, so he is forced to carry her and run before she acts recklessly. He tells her that the people are only crazy because they feel fear, and if they attack them, they will only make things worse, and that's why they must find Conrad, who is behind all this, and stop him. Suddenly, as they are escaping, Conrad attacks them with the cannons, ordering them to surrender or he will finish them off, but they block the attack, and Set rushes to destroy their cannons, and Millie helps him block the attacks. Conrad then enters himself and starts attacking Set. When Millie tries to help him, Dragul suddenly appears, knocks the magic staff out of her hand, and arrests her. Set tries to free her, but Conrad tells him, "Think carefully, or your other friend will die." He then knows that Duke is imprisoned in a cage, and his condition is not promising, and he imprisons Millie with him. Conrad begins hitting Set on the ground and takes his gloves to prevent him from using magic, but Dragul warns him not to underestimate him and to continue his investigation with him. Because of Duke's critical condition, Millie tries to treat him, but she can't because she doesn't have her magic staff, and they are also imprisoned in a black-silver cage. Duke tries to tell her about the Nemesis, but unfortunately, he doesn't have time to say anything. Meanwhile, Conrad moves to Street 12, where the citizens are gathered, and holds Set and Tag in front of everyone and tells them that Set confessed to him that the immigrants were hiding an infected person among them, and not only that, but they are also hiding a piece of the Nemesis in the poor neighborhoods as a surprise weapon. But Set immediately denies all this and says, "It didn't happen. The Tamer is the one who controls them." Conrad already knew, but he was affecting the citizens to find an excuse to execute his criminal plan. As soon as he achieves his goal, he closes the gates and imprisons the citizens, and he tells them that everyone here will be eliminated, whether they are wizards or even ordinary humans, because there is no time for ethics. Set gets angry and asks him, "Why are you doing this?" So Conrad tells him that he hates their culture, their old ideas, and everything about them, and that's why he wants to get rid of them. Set is shocked by his stupid justifications and decides to stop him himself and gathers Fantasy in his hand and hits him with all his strength. Conrad is shocked that he is using magic without gloves, but Set's attack doesn't stop him, and his men get up and continue throwing explosives at the people, but fortunately, Grim arrives then and absorbs all the bullets inside his bandages. Set treats his wounds afterward and asks him if the Tamer is his friend, but Set says he doesn't know her at all. He throws all the absorbed bullets towards the cannons to destroy them and help Set as a sort of apology for misunderstanding him. He tells him that he was looking for the Tamer from the beginning. At the same moment, the Tamer appears above the clock tower and starts gathering Fantasy around her until she creates a terrifying storm. She then controls the Nemesis and starts spreading them throughout the city, so Grim rushes to stop her, or they will be in trouble. Set asks Tag to hide and decides to stop this girl himself, but Conrad rushes quickly to take revenge on him. Set tries to convince him that this is not the right time to fight, but then he discovers that Conrad is already in agreement with the girl, and that's why he is ignoring the Nemesis. At the same time, Millie was imprisoned with the dying Duke, and a Nemesis is approaching them, meaning if she doesn't get out, She will also die with him, but her pet saves her at the last moment and quickly returns her magic staff to her, so she goes out to fight the nemesis. At the same time, Set was fighting Conrad, but he cancels all his magic attacks using his spear made of white silver. Despite the nemesis attacking the citizens, Conrad's men refuse to open the gates because of his orders. Dragul intervenes then and reminds them that their job is to kill the nemesis, not humans, and fortunately, they are convinced. They decide to unite their strength to fight them. Suddenly, Millie arrives and gets rid of the nemesis that is attacking them, and although it is a good opportunity to arrest her, Dragul lets her go because she is not a priority right now and rushes to the rest of the nemesis. Amidst all this chaos, the tamer speaks to the residents and tells them that they deserve the fear they are feeling now, as this is the same thing that happened 15 years ago, and all that remains is the final scene. She begins to increase the power of fantasy around the tower afterward, and he discovers that she is trying to break the bell and drop it on the citizens to get rid of them. Tag goes out to quickly open the gate, and Conrad tries to attack him, but Set stops him and continues to fight him even though he can't move his hand. He starts mocking him to distract him and buy him some time, but Conrad reveals his plan, and even though Tag opens the gate, the pig Conrad had already accounted for it and made another gate, so he was determined to get rid of the citizens at any cost. But the surprise is that the girl betrays him and throws the bell into the street where the weapons depot, the iron factory, and the inspection unit headquarters are located, thus destroying everything Conrad built for years. Conrad is furious and asks her, "Why did you do this?" She says, "How about I tell you a small story about the past?" She begins to tell him about her life 15 years ago when the inspection unit arrested her and her infected friends and decided to recruit them to eliminate the nemesis. After the residents welcomed them, they were suddenly thrown into prison with the criminals, and the residents also started demanding their execution. Then, a ray of hope appeared to them, which made everything that was happening to them easier, and that was Oxmar, the leader of the inspection unit, who always reminded them that they are not monsters and gave them flutes to distract themselves from the annoying voices of the citizens. But one person was not happy with the change that happened, and that person was Conrad, who wanted to get rid of them at any cost and always reminded them that they were monsters. But Oxmar confronted him and let him know that there is no difference between him and them, and his inability to accept differences is the cause of his weakness. Then, Conrad's anger increased, and he decided to take revenge on them. At first, he pretended to be their friend and opened the gate for them to escape, but they didn't know that he had spread the news of their escape before and planted fear in the country's residents. When Oxmar arrived to help her, she was the only one left, so he took her to prison again and tried to comfort her as usual. But do you think Conrad will stop here? No. One day, the news spread about the appearance of a nemesis in the city, and then Conrad asked Oxmar to use this girl to eliminate it, and even though he objected at first, there was no other solution, and that's why he asked for her help and decided to protect her himself. Conrad betrayed him then and suddenly attacked him in front of her and got rid of his other friends so he wouldn't tell on him, but before he finished off the girl, Oxmar intervened with his last remaining strength and helped her escape. In her despair, the girl decided to use the flute to calm herself down, and then she discovered her ability to tame the nemesis. At that time, she felt that the nemesis was similar to her, as no one wanted either of them. She decided to escape with them, but Conrad continued his plan and attacked Street 13 with cannons, so the street collapsed with the people in it. Not only that, but he also blamed the immigrants in prison and convinced his leadership that the collapse of Street 13 was the only way to save the country. What a monster! Just a few months ago, when she told him that she would get rid of the immigrants, he accepted her offer gladly. Conrad indeed confesses in front of everyone that he intends to get rid of all the immigrants. Not only that, but he also doesn't mind sacrificing ordinary citizens. The citizens are shocked by his confession and think that the girl will help them, but she tells them, "Wake up. You will all die here today." Because in the end, you were no different from Conrad in anything. Every one of you participated in the blood of the innocent children who died because they were infected or wizards. The same thing that happened before is happening now, and you did what Conrad ordered you to do without any doubt and tried to kill people. And since you love having a leader to guide you, allow me to guide you to your death this time. She starts preparing the storm again, but Grimm intervenes then and stops her, and Conrad decides to take this opportunity and orders his soldiers to shoot the citizens with all the remaining weapons. Set's anger increases because he is the cause of everyone's suffering, and he tells him that he is weak and will never achieve anything without deceiving everyone. Conrad loses his temper and attacks him with all his strength, but Set blocks his attack with one hand and without any bit of fantasy. Conrad attacks again and sends him flying away. Set blocks his attack with fantasy and rushes to attack him with all his strength. Conrad blocks his attack with the spear and tells him that everything that happened is because of them, and their mere existence in the world is a sin, so what's the problem with eliminating them? With every word he says to Set, Set's power increases to the extent that he destroys his spear and also absorbs his attack using fantasy to reduce the damage to his body. Despite Conrad's realization of his power, he was determined to attack him. He sends him flying away and then attacks him with the spear at the same moment so he cannot block it, but the surprise is that Set absorbs his attack inside the bandage just like Grimm did. He gathers a massive amount of fantasy in one hand and strikes him until he finishes him off. Set's power completely destroys the wall he was standing on. In this way, the path is opened for all the citizens to escape, and Dragul appears at him then and decides to arrest him, but the tamer returns to attack them again, so he decides to let him go to deal with her and arrest him afterward. Set rushes to stop her, and at the same time, Grimm was fighting her with all his strength, but she blocks all his attacks. He makes a smoke screen to distract her and capture her, and he asks her who taught her to tame the Nemesis, as this ability requires years to master. She doesn't answer him, so he threatens her that he will get rid of all the Nemesis. Then, the girl takes out a hidden blade and attacks him, and Grimm gets nervous as soon as he sees the blood and quickly runs away. As for Millie, she was fighting the Nemesis with all her strength. As soon as Set reaches her, she starts crying and tells him that Duke is dead, but he takes him out of his bag and tells her that he has become a baby. They discover that after he died, he came back to life in the form of a baby because his curse is cloning. While they are celebrating his return, Grimm suddenly arrives and warns them of the Tamer's power and advises them to quickly escape from this island before she eliminates them all, but Millie tells him that she has a plan to steal the Nemesis's power. Grimm reads the scroll then and reassures her that they will take Duke to a safe place. They rush toward the Tamer to execute the plan, but she attacks them with the Nemesis, and Set gets rid of them, but she increases the power of the attack until it hits him, but suddenly, someone saves him and quickly takes him inside the tower, and they discover that it is a boy with horns just like him. Grimm feels Set's pulse and confirms that he is still alive, so he continues their plan. The Tamer reaches them, and Grimm distracts her with the smoke screen, and Millie attacks her afterward, but she blocks her attack. She jumps onto the flute and quickly hits her in the face, but the Tamer throws her away and attacks her more than once. She threatens her that she will finish off all the city's residents if they insist on interfering in her revenge, so Millie tries to talk to her to stop what she is doing, but she refuses, so she takes out the steel box and seals her fantasy inside it. In this way, she prevents her from using magic and controlling the Nemesis. Grimm then summons his giant sword and starts getting rid of all the Nemesis in the place. Meanwhile, Set was in the tower with the boy who saved him, whose name is Raiden. Raiden asks him, "Why do you seal your power with the bandages on your face?" But Set tells him that he is covering the wound he got the first time he faced the Nemesis to prevent his curse from spreading, and this is what Alma told him. Raiden is upset and tells him that he doesn't understand fantasy this way and can't control his real power because of it. He asks him, "Who are you fighting for, Set?" Are you fighting for the people who don't have power but are racist towards the infected and kill them? Or are you fighting for the infected, in which case they will be killed by persecution? Or are you fighting for the inspection unit, in which case you will be forced to work with people like Conrad? Set then hears the sound of the battle happening outside, so he thanks him for saving him and leaves without giving him an answer. As for Grimm, his power runs out, and he can't get rid of the rest of the Nemesis, and the Tamer begins to unite her fantasy with the Nemesis's fantasy, thus ruining their plan, and she continues the storm to destroy the city. But suddenly, Set comes out of the tower and stops her. The girl grabs a spear and rushes to attack him and asks him, "Why are you here?" Set blocks her attacks and tells her, "I came to stop you, of course," and he orders her to stop destroying the city, but she refuses and continues to attack him. She gathers all the fantasy and throws it at him. Set tries to block her attacks using fantasy as well. She asks him, "Why are you trying to help your enemy?" But he tells her, "I just want to protect the city residents." Then, she loses her temper, and her power increases until she hits him and says that they don't deserve it, but Set gets up again and tells her that Conrad is the cause of all this, but she says, "If you think getting rid of one member of the inspection unit will be enough, you are a naive boy. The people who encourage the inspection unit do so to get what they want and protect only themselves." He says, "If we kill them because they are racist towards us, we will be doing the same thing they did." She says, "No matter what we do for them, they will remain afraid of us and call us the infected." She asks him whose side he is on exactly, but he tells her, "I am not on anyone's side. I will use my magic to save everyone." She attacks him again and tells him, "The people you are saving persecuted the wizards, deprived me of my mother, and killed my friends, and when the Nemesis appear, they wait for us to sacrifice our lives to save them. If you plan to protect people like this, you are not like me." She attacks him with all her strength afterward, but Set resists her and screams that she is wrong. Then, the girl stops her attack and goes to talk to him, and Set confesses that he can't forgive them like her and thought many times about destroying everything, but what stopped him was always feeling frustrated, and that's why he understands everything she is doing. The girl feels relieved and cries on his shoulder then, but he continues that he doesn't want to be the monster they think he is. He pulls out the scroll that seals the Nemesis's power, which she united her power with, and in this way, he cancels her attack and prevents the island from falling. The girl thinks he will hand her over to the inspection unit, but he tells her that this won't happen. He asks her what she will gain by being evil. She says that the conflict between ordinary humans and wizards has existed for a long time, and there is no solution but to choose the side they will fight on, but Set tells her that there is no need to choose a specific side and asks her to help him destroy Raiden, and then they will get rid of all the Nemesis and all live as friends with everyone. But suddenly, a massive figure in the shape of an old man appears, and they discover that this is General Turok, who arrived with the Miracle Makers, and he uses a special power called Miracle Power. The old man orders them to hand over Set because he is accused of killing Colonel Van. Set is surprised because he knows nothing about this, but the strange thing is that he felt that he knew the names he mentioned before he could defend himself. The Tamer, whose name is Hellman, suddenly arrests him, and she decides to exploit him because she feels he is important. She offers the inspection unit that she will hand him over on the condition that they free all the wizards in the prisons and stop persecuting them, but they refuse, of course. So, she moves with Set until she reaches her scroll and unites her power with the Nemesis again and attacks them. She exploits their distraction and gives the scroll to Set and tells him that she won't be able to join his journey and rushes to fight the old man again. Set tries to help her, but Grimm and Millie take him on the broomstick and escape, and suddenly, while she is busy fighting the old man, General Turok arrives and stabs her in the back. Set loses his temper then and rushes to attack him with all his strength, but suddenly, one of the Miracle Makers appears and stops him and decides to kill him. Set then transforms in a strange way as if someone is controlling him, and with just one blow, he defeats him. He then rushes to fight the old man, Notary, and hits him with a serious injury. General Turok activates the power of his sword and attacks him, but he blocks his attack, so the general sends him flying away, and Santori attacks him, and the building collapses beneath him, dropping him, but Grim and Millie catch him and quickly escape and go to an empty area, and Grim takes out a coffin with living people in it. They discover then that the disappearances that happened were indeed because of him, but he was hiding the people to protect them. Suddenly, a massive ship from Artemis arrives, takes Set and his friends, and they quickly escape. At this time, Set enters his memories and sees Byron there. He asks him why he did this, as he was the one who controlled him and turned him into a monster, but Byron tells him that this was the only way to save him. He gets angry and tells him that he couldn't differentiate between friend and foe and saw pictures and memories he doesn't know, and he asks him if he is the cause of that too. Byron tells him that this is his power and he always had it, and all he did was help him reach it. Set asks him, "Who are you, and why do you look like me?" Byron tells him that he is his older brother. He asks him, "Why are you feeling frustrated even though you defeated Conrad?" He says, "I know there are many people like Conrad, and I don't know how to stop them all." He asks him if he will be able to reach Raiden and fix everything, but Byron can't answer him and decides to leave him to think alone. After a week, he finally wakes up from his coma and discovers that Grim treated him and saved him again, but suddenly, he feels pain as he speaks, so Grim tells him that Turok's attack is the cause of these wounds, and unfortunately, the power of the sword cuts magic and destroys magic weapons, and they cannot treat the wounds that happen because of it with any magic either. This way, he might not be able to use fantasy with his injured hand again, but Set was not bothered because he does nothing with his power but destruction. He asks what happened to Ramble City, and he says that the miracle makers are supervising the restoration work there. No one knows what will happen after Conrad's absence, but thankfully, it will be better at least. He asks them about Hellman's nemesis, and Millie reassures him that they are living peacefully in a special facility at the academy, so he feels relieved because they were able to protect them as she requested at least. They go to visit Ms. Mila after a long absence, and then they learn that the whole city is talking about them because they are the heroes who saved Ramble City, specifically Set, who saved the people from a wicked witch known as the Tamer. Set feels sad because everyone thinks she is evil, and suddenly, a message arrives from Majesty informing them that he will hold a party at night in his castle. He asks them to attend it, so Millie gets excited and asks Mila to go with her, and that's why Duke decides to buy a growth potion to quickly grow up and dance with her at the party before anyone snatches her from him. He indeed grows up a little, but not enough, and after the party, everyone cheers for the King of Debts, who is our hero. Majesty talks about his achievements and asks him about his next steps, so Set tells him that he will destroy Raiden, and even though they are surprised at first because Raiden is a mythical place, they trust his power and cheer for him again. Majesty throws him into the crowd, and Set escapes from them with difficulty. As soon as he leaves, he meets Nikki, who was jealous of him and says that he became famous by luck and shouldn't overestimate himself. He asks him to face him in a duel to see who is stronger, but Set was not interested, so Nikki starts provoking him and says, "You look scared, man." It's clear that this Tamer wasn't as strong as they say, for the Tamer is a low-level witch anyway, and none of them has power. Set can't take it and suddenly attacks him and says, "Don't you dare talk badly about her. You don't even know what she went through or why she wanted to destroy the city." He screams angrily afterward and says that there are many wizards suffering just like her, and people are afraid of the Nemesis and their curse, and that's why he wants to destroy Raiden as soon as possible. He asks everyone present if anyone knows anything about Raiden, but no one answers him, so he leaves them disappointed. He then goes to visit Hellman's nemesis and remembers her words when she told him that they are not evil. He feels more frustrated and doesn't know what to do, and suddenly, Alma appears and hits him because he didn't contact her even once since he left. She tells him, "If Millie hadn't called me, I wouldn't have known what happened to you, and it is clear that you faced a difficult time in Ramble." He says that he is not a hero and couldn't save Millie, and he also turned into a monster and lost control of himself, and since he left her, he has been causing trouble for everyone. She hits him and tells him, "Enough self-pity," and shows him the message that Tag sent, thanking him because, thanks to his help, the city's conditions completely changed, and the disputes between people disappeared, and he says that one day he will go to Artemis and become a hero like him. Alma tells him that even if there are people he couldn't save, things changed thanks to his help, and the same thing happened to the residents of Bombo Hills, the village he lived in. Even Millie postponed the treatment of her wounds until she treated him because he saved her. Set feels better and thanks her. He tells her that he will destroy Raiden and change the world no matter the cost. Because of what Conrad did to get rid of the immigrants, people's trust in the inspection unit began to decline, and in an attempt to mend the situation, Turok decides to deploy his forces in Svendor City to eliminate the Desert Knights, and this way, they will be forced to enter a war, but the problem is that they had a shortage of weapons. At this time, Raiden was talking with Turok near the old man and asks him about him, and he says that he is a person who believes in maintaining justice and order in the world, but he is completely different from him because he doesn't believe that he can change the world with his special power, and that's why he never got promoted from his position. Dragul returns to his ship and tries to contact the surrounding countries hoping that they will lend them food, but no one agrees because their trust in the inspection unit has decreased after what happened. The soldiers feel desperate, and the new soldier goes to talk to Dragul and asks him what they will do exactly now. Despite the fact that they kill to help people, unlike Conrad, they are treated this way to the extent that he started to feel that no matter how much effort they put in, the world will not improve even a little. But Dragul tells him, "It means you do the right thing, and you will guarantee a good result." He also tells him that he believes that one person can change the world, and there is no solution but for them to do what they can. Bark comes to bring them food, and they ask them to contact the village they saved from the Nemesis attack while dealing with Edmund. They indeed contact them, and they agree to help them as a thank you for saving them. We go to Set, who goes to the cafe with Alma and discovers then that she ran out of coffee beans because Ramble connected the North and South continents, and the coffee beans and wheat had to pass through there to be delivered to Artemis, and since the area is not suitable for trade after what happened, it will be difficult for her to trade. But Millie tells them that no one will die without coffee. Duke remembers his octopus friend, and when he goes to check on him, he finds him on the verge of death, so he asks Set and Millie to find coffee by any means. After a lot of searching, they manage to find it and save his friend, but Duke was on the verge of death afterward when he discovered that Majesty sold them the cup of coffee for 100 million. At this time, a summons arrives for Dragul to the main headquarters, so he decides to leave the ship in the custody of his deputy and also decides to take responsibility for what happened in Ramble alone. Despite Set's attempts to overcome the tragedy of Ramble, his memories were haunting him, and he was also afraid and asked Alma if he had become a monster or not. Alma decides to go with him to visit Yaga to talk to him about Raiden, but as soon as they arrive, they discover that he has left them a message informing them that he doesn't want to meet Alma, but he asks her to tell Set to go to Castellan Marline because he heard that the Desert Knights there are looking for Raiden. Set asks her, "What is Castellan Marline?" She says that it is the capital of Svendor and informs him that the inspectors decided to expel the wizards there to restore their reputation that they lost. Set gets angry and decides to stop them before they harm innocent wizards again, and despite Alma's fear, she leaves the decision in his hands as Yaga requested in the message and told her that Set has matured and will surely find his answer on the way. Set indeed decides to go to Castellan Marline and asks Duke and Millie to help him. As usual, Duke refuses because he doesn't want to expose himself to danger again. When Millie tells him that she wants to help Set, he reminds her that she is his assistant and asks her to go get the tools he needs so they can work and pay off their debts. Set feels frustrated and tells him, "I thought we were friends, Duke." So he tells him that he was lucky to come back alive last time, but he killed the miracle makers and took down Conrad again, and he asks him if he wants to expose Millie's life to this danger. Set hesitates because of his words and starts to think that he needs to kill this way to find Raiden and if the Nemesis are really evil, but in the end, he discovers that there is no solution but to reach Raiden and find the answer himself. Then, Majesty arrives at him and asks him if he plans to go to Castlin Marline. Set is surprised that he knew and asks him if the place is dangerous, so Majesty tells him that Artemis is the only place of hope for wizards, and any other place he goes to will expose him to danger. So Set asks him, "Why do people fear? They call out to us with the wounded," saying that Seth himself saw that they, the Inquisitors, are afraid of anything that is not like them. They later find out that Majesty has increased the cost of the last party, adding it to his debts. Seth is shocked because he didn't even ask for a party. Alma then appears and tells him, "Greedy as usual," so Majesty laughs and says, "I'll wait for you to come back and pay your debts." Suddenly, as they are talking, Nemesis nests fall from the sky everywhere. Majesty quickly activates the defense barrier and deploys his forces to eliminate them. Alma decides to return to her ship, asking Seth not to be reckless. However, Nico appears and provokes him as usual because Seth is not fighting the Nemesis. Seth gets angry and says that not all Nemesis are evil, but Nico, of course, calls this ridiculous talk. Suddenly, Doc arrives and tells him that Melee, who went to retrieve his tools from the forest where the Nemesis fell, is now in danger. Seth takes Nico's broom and speeds off. Luckily, he saves her at the last moment from a Nemesis attack. He starts distracting it until Melee traps it in a magic circle. He then attacks it, but suddenly the Nemesis rises again and attacks Melee while she is preoccupied. Seth quickly pushes her away, so the Nemesis grabs him instead and pulls him underwater. Seth tries to escape but can't, and at that moment, he loses control and starts to transform again. As soon as he gets rid of the Nemesis, he returns to his normal state and realizes what happened. He feels disappointed again and decides to leave the next day with Alma without saying goodbye to anyone, so as not to hesitate, and heads towards Castle Merlin. This was the beginning of the discovery of Seth's journey toward his true path.